Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today. My name is Vidya Kasturi, a student intern with the ADAPT program managed by Orange Partnership, and I'm very excited to introduce our guest today, Caroline Hall. Caroline is also an intern with the ADAPT program, has actually been working with this organization since middle school. Caroline, do you want to share some of your experiences?
Hey, I'm Caroline. So I became an ADAPT intern in my sophomore year, which I'm going in my junior year now. And I did the ADAPT club in middle school. And so I did it, and I knew my boss, and I knew everyone. So I knew that I wanted to do it into high school, but there wasn't really an opportunity. So once I heard about the ADAPT internship, I joined, and it was so cool.
Very cool, very cool. I think what got me interested was a lot of the opportunities that we've seen presented to ourselves in this internship. The way that it was kind of phrased to me was that it was an internship in public health with aspects of counseling and social work. And I thought that was really interesting because that was one of the fields that I was considering going into. I'm a junior, so going into my senior year now, which is kind of scary. And so I thought it'd be really cool to kind of get some really hands-on experience in the field of public health. And one thing I really appreciate about all the work that we've been able to do as student interns is that I think Orange Partnership really focuses on making the ADAPT program a grassroots organization. And they really focus on emphasizing the youth voice. Anytime that we're, we especially are talking to, adults or representatives, whoever's, the adult that we're with, usually Guyan, is really, really good about making sure that we get a chance to talk and kind of advocate what we see on a peer-to-peer level. Yeah. And I feel like that's what's been missing from a lot of other substance use prevention programs. They kind of seem like, another group of adults trying to handle a situation as opposed to really trying to understand that. Do you ever experience that?
No, yeah. I mean, it's really hard sometimes, being a young person, because your voice isn't really, prioritized.
Yeah, we feel like we're kind of ignored sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. But, in this program, I feel like it's mainly just how can the youth help other youth? Because I feel like it's really hard hearing things from adults because it sounds like they're talking down to you or... So I feel like being a peer,
do you think that helps, the people that we talk to?
No, definitely.
Yeah. All right. So as a part of this internship, we've had a lot of really incredible opportunities. We started with peer interviews. We've given lots of presentations, worked with younger kids and parents. And you and I were actually part of the group that got to attend CADCA's Leadership Forum in Washington, D.C. and speak with senators and representatives. So what would you say has been your favorite part about all that?
I mean, going to CADCA was crazy because we got to go in the Senate building.
Yeah, when we were in that building.
That was actually wild.
Didn't it? It had marble floors.
And it was we saw John F. Kennedy's office.
Yeah, we see all these plaques on the sides of the the names on every
and
building.
We just got to go and learn, but also have get to see so many cool things.
That was so fun.
And also talking to the senators, and again, us being prioritized. We got to talk to Tom Tillis's his staff.
Yeah, his office.
And we were the ones, they were y'all are going to talk. We were in a room with a bunch of adults, and they let us, share everything, which was just, so cool.
It was really different, because we started with Representative Fushi, and that was, it was a smaller group. It was just us. Yeah. The two of us, and then the two, they're freshmen, right?
They're going into their sophomore year now.
Yeah, the two rising sophomores now, that we joined us, in CADCA. And so it was a smaller group, and I think that was definitely a good experience to kind of lead into the Tom Tillis one.
Yeah, it was a training.
Because everybody was there for Tom Tillis, all of the adults that went with us to CADCA, and the ones that were just from North Carolina that we didn't go with.
Yeah, and they were so engaged. They were just wanted to listen to everything we said, and I feel like we got stuff done there.
Yeah, I was really impressed because the main officer that we were, or official, or I don't know what his position was,
or something.
The main staff member that we were talking to, he seemed to know a lot about prevention work.
Yeah.
And he was really he really understood all the programs that we were talking about.
And it felt like he wasn't ever talking down to us. He was always engaged, and he was always listening. And I feel like that's just because of the internship and Orange Partnership putting us first.
Yeah, and I will say this internship has definitely helped me with my public speaking skills, because
Yes.
I was terrified of public speaking before I joined this, and now I'm just kind of, I don't know. We've done so many presentations. I'm not sure if you were here for this, but we presented to the ABC board about our grants.
Yeah, I heard
and
about
like all the parent presentations that we've done, and we did the take down and pack of
exactly,
event.
and even like talking to the middle schoolers, I was like pretty nervous.
Yeah,
because they're kind of scary sometimes. But like after doing that presentation 20 times, like it was not scary, and I felt like I could talk to anyone.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think it's really cool how we've kind of seen, how much it is about knowing your audience, because appealing to parents and like board members is so different than trying to appeal to middle schoolers. You can't give the same presentation twice.
Exactly. And like we see like schools trying to connect with our peers and like try to say like you shouldn't vape because we say so, but you're an adult and you don't understand like maybe like the stressors or like what goes along. But like I feel like we are in there like firsthand.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get right into that.
Yeah,
it's really good.
I feel like
I feel like, because there's, especially being in high school, there's so many different influencing factors, and a lot of the time one thing that I think we like to emphasize is that it's not as much about peer pressure as it is about peer influence nowadays. Because you don't see it as aggressive. It's more just kind of internal, and you see so much around you like done by people that you respect, and you're just kind of, it kind of messes with your mind a little bit, especially in such like formative ages.
Yeah, and that's why I feel like why we focus more on like middle schoolers, especially 8th graders going to high school. Yeah, because we've talked about this before, but like coming into 9th grade and you're so nervous and like finding that friend group, especially if you're coming from like a different middle school or didn't have that many friends, you don't want to be doing high school alone. And so like I feel like people go to like people who vape or do other maybe not the best choices, like to find their friend group because it's like easier, I feel.
Yeah. And then because you also don't know which friend groups are like which friend groups are into what. And I think especially in middle school, because there's so much less that you're exposed to. Like there's a lot going on in middle school. Yeah. But in high school, it's a much bigger community, and you're dealing with people that are much older than you. Yeah. Because, age gap between like a freshman and a senior, like 14, 18. Yeah. As opposed to middle school, it's only 3 years. You're a lot closer. Yeah. And so I think there's such a varying level of experiences that you're going like from one to the other. And so like I think in middle school, especially for me, it was so much easier for me to just have a blanket statement in my mind, like, oh, I'll never do that. Yeah. Yeah. And then you go into high school and you're just like, okay, I kind of understand people who use this more.
Yeah. And I feel like we were saying, when you come to a friend group, you're not really sure. Yeah. And so if you're like been hanging out with them for a while and then they like pull out a vape or decide that they're like, let's do this. And you're like, that's not in my like morals. Yeah. It's hard to be like, I'm not going to be friends with you anymore. Because you've like started like connecting with them.
Yeah, it's a lot harder to feel like vaping is wrong when you see people that you really respect and you've connected with doing it. Yeah. You're just like, okay, well, I like this person. Like, I know them. I know they're a good person. I know they have good morals. And they're using the substance that I previously thought was really, really bad. It must not be that bad, right?
It's someone you respect. Yeah. And you see them in this like light where...
Especially sometimes like you become friends with people a little bit older than you in high school. Like I said, we're so many different levels of experience. So you kind of are influenced by people that are a little bit older than you.
And you look up to them.
Yeah. Because you're just like, you have more life experience than me. You kind of know what you're doing more than I do. Yeah. So, yeah. I think that's definitely really important.
Yeah. And a lot of the adults that try to, like, why would you do this? This is so dumb. Yeah. It's so hard to, like, understand this is, like, what is going on in high school. Yeah. Like, you were not, some of them, you were not in high school.
Yeah, but I mean,
like you were in high school a while ago.
Yeah, they grew up in such a different time period than us, and like the different substances that are prevalent now were so different back then. Yeah. So I think like the landscape is definitely really changing, and we see so much new stuff introduced,
like all the time, and it's getting more and more easier to just say this isn't as bad. Yeah. Like I feel like with like the presence of Zen now, like it's so small. Maybe you think of like it's not doing as much. Yeah. When that's completely
it's
not
like
even
the opposite
true.
Of Monster, because it gets absorbed faster because it's like right in your mouth.
And it's so easy to hide too. So like if your friend just has it in class, you can just take it and like,
Yeah, it's
you
so
don't
easy
even have to think
conceal.
about it. Yeah. And especially if, were you the one who said something about in class, they like passed it around?
Yeah.
That's another thing. Like, it's not really peer pressure. Like, you could take that away and say no.
You
but
could
like,
take it, you could not take
if
it.
everyone
but
else
it's there.
is taking it, you don't want to like be the person who
who isn't, you don't want to feel
doing
like,
it.
and you don't want to, like, even if people aren't outright saying you should do this because you're going to be the only one not doing it, you kind of feel like you're being judged if you don't do it.
Literally. But that's why I think morals and seeing more people who don't do it is so important for like people our age.
I think that's why like the ADAPT program with us is so important, because especially seeing, you know, what we've accomplished, being able to go to CADCA, speak to actual elected officials.
And also CADCA was so cool because we saw like the older people who were in leadership.
Yeah, we saw the seniors.
Yeah, because CADCA has these like a really big group of people who are like seniors, and I think there was even like a junior.
Yeah, high school seniors.
Yeah, high school seniors, and they were all just like the leaders of our group, and they like taught like
they were going over different seminars. It was
they were
really
doing
cool.
the seminars, and it was like,
and it's because they're only like
it's
a year
not
or
just
two older
an
than
old
us.
guy talking to us. It's like this like guy who's our age.
Yeah, I mean, we value the old guys' experiences, but it's nice to hear from someone who's like, especially as a junior, like I'll be a senior next year. It's really cool to hear from someone who's 1 year older than me.
Yeah.
Who's actually like a presenter at this conference.
Yeah.
And I'm just attending.
And who have accomplished so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that was really cool as well.
That was really cool.
So yeah, and I think especially through everything that we've seen, you know, and going back to how much we see this on a peer-to-peer level, I think particularly one thing that I want to emphasize is just, you know, the marketing of different substances and like what makes them so appealing.
Yeah.
Because you already mentioned how switching friend groups and being in a new situation can kind of influence you to kind of change your mind on something. But, you know, how can we talk a lot about the marketing of substances in ADAPT, but like, what do you think?
I mean, when I look at the marketing, I find everything just terrible. Like these old people, these are adults who are like these marketing executives who are looking at these like harmful products and they're making them like Sour Patch Kids or Oreos or really bright colors or like really yummy flavors. Like,
I know it's a really, I think the thing that I found the most disturbing is just like going back to the Sour Patch things, like the Stony Patch Kids, the rip-off of Sour Patch Kids, and then the Stonios, like Oreos. Because we were talking about how in the Stony Patch Kids, there's 6 times the average dose recommended for an adult in that tiny little package.
And they're marketed towards like...
That's meant for children.
Little kids.
I think it's really, it's really crazy to see how, you know, how all of that kind of influences everything.
Yeah, and
you wouldn't even know if you picked that up in the store. Exactly. It looks the same.
Exactly. And we've even seen middle schoolers, like around, like in our county, like have a, like bad
reaction?
health effects.
Yeah, adverse reactions.
Yeah. That was
there were a bunch of issues during the middle school, I think.
Yeah.
Didn't they have to get EMTs involved?
Yes. And I feel like that should be coming to the front. Where people are like, well, if no one's ever going to do that, like, it's fine. It's just going to give you, like, a high. But, like, it's literally hurting these children.
Do you feel like that got swept up in the rug at all?
I feel like it kind of did. I mean, they're young people, like, very young.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to put, like, 12-year-olds in the news.
Yeah, for sure. But, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to report that without causing a massive scare.
Exactly.
But in some aspect, I think it's important to address that just so we kind of know what's going on in the community.
No, literally.
You know? Like, and at least addressing what caused that.
Yeah, and, like, the people in the middle school know, but I don't think they understand how harmful that was. Like, I feel like it was kind of a funny thing. Yeah. Where this guy, like, had a really big problem. But, like... Yeah. That's
and, you know,
not the
like,
case.
A lot of the time you'll see, you know, maybe 20 kids in a room that can use fine, and then the one other kid that has an adverse reaction, and you're just like, oh, that would never happen, you know?
Yeah.
But you don't know what's in these substances.
Happened in our own, like, place.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, yeah. I mean, also, the whole thing about, like, Stonios and, like, those Sour Patch Kids, the idea that you can, like, cut it to like
like the serving size is like half of a gummy,
but like
no one's gonna cut a gummy
when you're like at a party
You're not going to say, oh, I need to measure out
oh, let
how
me
much
get
of
my
this
knife
gummy.
out.
Yeah.
Like,
you know, like this is a 1-inch long gummy. I need to cut this in half.
Yeah. Same with the, like, we were talking about Stonios.
Yeah.
With Guyon, and like, you cannot cut an Oreo in half.
Yeah.
It's like in fourths. You have to like cut it. It's so.
Yeah, or like when you split it, it's just going to crumble. You're not going to eat it
Yeah,
like that.
exactly.
You're just going to bite into the Oreo and eat
Exactly.
the whole thing.
No one's gonna. That's so.
Yeah, because like a lot of people, you're not going to read the serving size on the back of the packet of Oreos and see, oh, it's 1/2 of an
and
Oreo.
I feel like the majority of people who are like using synthetic THC are not using it alone.
Yeah,
it's usually
groups
like
more
with groups, and you're not, especially when you're in a group. Like that is not about to happen where you're just gonna.
Yeah, for sure.
And so like the marketing is so scary.
Especially like going back to all the stress factors that we experience. I've heard vapes often marketed as stress relievers.
Yes.
And there's like, because there's so much misinformation out there, you know, people think that just because a plant like marijuana is grown out of the ground, then it's okay. And I think the reference
but
that
like,
you wouldn't smoke poison ivy, right?
Yeah,
like,
literally.
You know,
just because it grows out of the ground doesn't mean that it's safe.
Yeah. And then, you know, there's comparison between different substances like marijuana and tobacco. People think that marijuana is better than tobacco.
Yeah.
It's not.
That's why we have to like somehow get information out.
Yeah.
That like what you're saying is completely false.
Yeah.
And it's so hard.
That.
Yeah, it's so hard when one person believes it and they're just telling their friends, and it just keeps on going like, oh, it's fine.
Yeah, especially when you hear that from adults.
No, yeah.
Yeah, because like maybe someone will hear that from their parent, and then you're like, oh, okay, my parent says that's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
That it must be okay. And then you kind of spread that to your friends, and then
yeah,
the loop of misinformation, it just goes round and round.
Exactly. That's why like what you're doing, parent information, is so important. And like,
thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, and I think all the presentations that we've given middle schoolers are also important for that reason.
Because they're going home and telling their parents. So that's even like...
And I think some parents were in attendance at that time.
Yeah. And I've seen
really
like
cool.
when I go over to like Standback, which is where we had the
take down the back event.
They're like wearing their shirts, which makes me so happy.
Oh,
like,
yeah, like the
they'll
middle
just
school
like,
adapt
I see
members.
so many people wearing their shirts, and I'm like, that's so cool.
I know.
Like that you're just wearing your shirt
I
to
love
school.
that. Yeah. And some people, the other intern at the high school does that too. I see her in her adapt shirt all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, whatever you wear it, it's so
I
cute.
know, it's so cute.
So I think, which are the middle schools that we have it at? Is that Standback? It's at Gravelly Hill?
Yeah, we haven't done like a presentation at Gravelly Hill,
But like
we
the
should.
branches of the adapt program.
Oh,
right?
yes, we have one at Gravelly Hill. We used to have one at Orange Middle, but
Yeah, I'm not
it's
sure.
not. Hopefully we can
gotta
get one.
restart that one.
We need to,
that
because then that's coming into Orange, and then you can get some more people into Orange.
Like you're getting all the middle schools that feed into the high schools. Like they're all right across the street.
That's like what happened with me. Like doing it in middle school really changes your perspective.
Yeah, and you
'Cause,
realize like what's actually going on.
Yeah, yeah. And then you come into it during high school,
Yeah.
and now that we have this, so that's so cool.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. I'm really glad that we've been able to achieve everything that we have.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think one project that really stood out to me was our very first one, like all the interviews that we did. I think it's really cool to kind of be a student, being able to interview adults, parents, other students, and kind of, because I think, and Guyon brought this up, our program director, by the way. She brought this up, but I think the results that we'd get if an adult was conducting that survey are so different than, you know, what we got as like we are conducting that survey. Do you think students would be less likely to talk?
I mean, I feel like
adults?
they would have like made up answers.
Yeah.
Because with when I was interviewing my friends, I was like, you do not have to lie about anything. I'm not judging you.
Yeah.
Like just because I want truthful like research.
Yeah. She's like, I'm not going to judge you for whatever you say. It's anonymous.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, it being anonymous was a really
that definitely helps.
good. Yeah. It was a really long interview.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like being with us, it was easier for them to get through it.
Yeah, because if you're just like emailed that survey,
you're not going to do it.
Yeah, you're probably just going to click on it and then be like, yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah, literally.
But,
I don't know if I would want to go sit through all that.
I mean,
but like having
even
your
I probably
friends come up to you, or even just, I felt like it was easier with people I didn't know. Because my friends were more likely to be like, I don't want to do it.
They're more likely to like laugh and be like, yeah, no.
But like with people I didn't know, I feel like they were a lot more
like open to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, we've gotten through a lot. I think I really wanted to cover like marketing and all the appeals and kind of what makes students more susceptible.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of the time that's not as addressed. Like going back to, we talked a lot about the stress factors, but a lot of stress factors can be influenced by things other than school. There's a lot like going on in people's home lives, like things they're exposed to, there's just so much going on that we're exposed to. So I think maybe in another project we could do, maybe introducing some more resources for people.
Yeah. That's what I feel like is really important. Yeah. I think like with the helpline that's going on
the Nice project.
Yeah, that one's really cool because I feel like because vaping is marketed as like
stress reliever,
just a stress reliever. Same with like THC, like that is a big like
people do edibles for that too.
Just because it's gonna make me feel better. But the like again we've seen adverse reactions happen that are so like not great, and if you're just continually like using, it's not good. And I feel like putting out more resources for people is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just think, because it's so easy. You don't know if you're going to have an adverse reaction just because maybe you've taken an edible before, but, depending on who you got this from, you might not know what's laced in there. You don't know, and they a lot of the time, students aren't going to look at exactly what the products are that they're ingesting. Yeah. And they absolutely should, but it's less likely to happen, especially when you get something from somebody that you trust, right?
Exactly. And I mean, even like the tobacco shops around our schools don't check ID.
Yeah, and there's so many of them so close to schools.
I don't want to like be letting people know, but it's really not good.
Yeah.
And
well, we didn't say which ones. So.
True. But there's not much like parent like overview. Like there's not even there's like people obviously whose maybe parents aren't as helpful even if they knew. But like when you're getting it from your friend or you're getting it off of social media, which is so dangerous.
Or even from like an older sibling or something.
Yeah. And you don't know what's in that. And it's so like
because it goes through so many people. Like there's the store they buy it from, all the people. Like a lot of times it's like a chain of, this person, you get it like sold it to this person, who sold it to this person, who sold it to you. So you don't know how many people that could have gone through or like what could really be in this product. And so, I think that's something that we really need to address.
Yeah, and I feel like older siblings also need to think a lot about what they're giving to their little siblings. Like these are children who are not supposed to be using this.
Yeah, brains are still developing.
Yeah, exactly. And when your brain is still developing, it hurts your brain so bad. Like it's like so much worse for a child. And it's like you're however many times more likely to like
develop
a usage disorder if you start using at a younger age.
Yeah, because
it's like a crazy number.
Yeah, you become so reliant on it. Like, every time you get stressed, you turn to something.
Exactly.
And then you kind of don't know how to be stressed and cope with stress without using that substance.
And then as you grow up, being an adult, I bet, is so stressful.
I know, I bet.
And and so you're gonna not have developed like healthy stress
habits.
Reliever, like
because then you kind of like you go from your parents' home or your guardian's home or whatever situation you're in, like in high school, to either whether you're going to a university or you're going to the workforce or whatever you choose to do after high school, you're thrown into, I don't want to say the real world, but like a more broad view of the world and like a larger community than what you've dealt with. And you're just you feel more on your own. So I bet in that situation, it's also so much easier to kind of turn to something to cope with that because it must be a hard transition.
I mean, especially going into college, if you go to college after high school, you've not learned any healthy coping mechanisms.
And the work is,
and you're going into college, which is, it's also filled with so many more people who probably don't have your best interest in mind.
Yeah.
And so that's just so dangerous to come into a new place with a bunch of people that you don't really know. Yeah. Usually. And then you don't know how to cope with things.
Yeah. And like, especially, I'm sure it's so easy. Even if you are, say, 21, you're in college and you're going like to a bar with your friends at night. And even beyond like the friend group, there's so many people in the world that you can't trust. And like, I think one topic that I like to cover with parents is I like to emphasize the importance of kind of discussing rideshare with your kid. Yeah. Because I think that's the most often missed topic. And especially like in the situation I just mentioned, if you're like, say you are old enough to be drinking and you go out to a bar and nobody wants to be the driver, they want us to stay sober, and you're getting into an Uber you don't know what's going to happen in a car
No.
with somebody you don't know
Yeah.
when you're intoxicated, when you like you're not in control of your body.
Yeah.
And I think that's
possibly
really
late at night.
scary. Yeah, or like it's late at
Most
night,
likely.
yeah, you don't like I think that's really scary, and I'm like I really hope that kind of bringing awareness to that helps prevent situations
Yeah.
like that, cuz I was thinking about that one day and I was
No.
like, why does nobody talk about
And
that?
also not downplaying like
Mhm.
boys like experience,
Oh yeah.
but a girl getting in a car intoxicated
It's a lot more dangerous.
so dangerous.
Yeah.
Because like
Like,
even when you're not
statistics-wise, yeah.
intoxicated, it's probably dangerous if you go out somewhere. Like
Go out in groups, people.
yeah, true.
But yeah, I think, yeah, you know, there's so much to think about, and bringing it back to kind of the high school level. I think different schools address use in such different ways, and I feel like one thing that I like to advocate is kind of supporting people without consequence. And I'll expand on that. So I think a lot of the time what we see in terms of like say somebody got caught using something, you know, I think the immediate thing that schools do is kind of jump to like punishment, like suspension, and you know, like whatever that may entail, instead of kind of focusing on like really seeing the student like on their level and saying, what's causing this? Like, what's going on? Are you okay? How can I help you?
Yeah.
You know, like, do you ever experience that?
No, I mean, I've seen people be forced into the Adapt Club
Oh, really?
because they were caught vaping, which I think is less helpful. Like, I feel like putting them in a situation maybe with someone who they can talk to, a trusted adult,
Yeah.
is really a lot more important. I'm not saying you shouldn't join the Adapt Club.
Oh,
but
absolutely. It's
if you
great,
are in there and you obviously don't want to be there, it's not going to be as helpful.
Yeah,
So
you're just gonna be really.
yeah. And I feel like being with someone who can help you quit or who can help you figure out better coping mechanisms, like all of that is so much healthier than just throwing the person into something, or even sending someone home.
Yeah.
I feel like is so dangerous because that's not helping them with anything.
Yeah.
And I understand like the like need to do that, but I feel like it should be more emphasized that this person should
Yeah, like talk about
be able to
recovery
have
more
someone
than
to talk
that.
to.
Because I mean, all you're really accomplishing, like you're taking them out of school, so they're not learning anything at that, like for like a week or 2 weeks, and you know that's more time that they can be using something without anybody noticing. And I think all that really teaches them is how to hide it better next time.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
And because they don't feel like people are really
Yeah.
committed to helping them. They're just like, oh, well, you don't care.
Yeah, and they have Boomerang, which is
Yeah,
like the
Boomerang
place
Youth.
that you go. But I feel like that's only used on people who are have a long suspension. But even just suspending someone for like 2 days
Yeah.
is not
It's not
helpful.
what does that accomplish?
Yeah. Just
Yeah.
even if you don't want them to be in the school, I feel like ISS is like better.
Yeah, because at least you're being monitored there.
Yeah, and I
You're
feel
kind
like the ISS teachers, I don't know if they already are. I don't have as much information, but should be like trained on talking to people.
Yeah.
And like making sure that the person's okay
They
and
should be
making
prepared
sure
to-
that
yeah, to have like conversations.
Yeah.
Maybe not on substance use, but like just general communication.
yeah,
Something like that.
and the person probably wouldn't want to talk about it,
Yeah.
but I think having that there would make it a lot more easier, at least to get out your feelings.
Yeah, I think even like in the broader scheme, even with parents, just kind of having a conversation with a kid and being like, hey, I get it if you don't want to talk about this, but I'm here if you do, and I'm
Yeah.
not going to judge you. You know, this is a safe space for you. Like, you know, we don't have to make any, like, do anything drastic. I want to be here for you. I'm here to listen. I think that could help a lot.
Yeah,
you know?
instead of like going straight into yelling at you and saying you're grounded.
Yeah, like you did this wrong. Like, how could you do this? Like, you're such a bad person.
Yeah.
Like the bad person, like, you know, like that's
Like,
such
why
a
are you
harmful
who
stigma.
you're not
you know?
who I raised.
Yeah.
Which is just like,
So often I see that, like, because I work with parent communication, like,
yeah.
And, you know, I think a lot of the reasons that parents don't talk to their kids about certain things is because of that whole, you know, I raised my kid better than this.
Exactly.
You know, and I'm just like, yeah, you could raise your kid with the highest respect for other people, for the highest respect for themselves, like really good morals. That doesn't make them any less likely to use.
Exactly.
Because
They can get themselves into trouble.
They're still exposed to the same stress factors that every other high school student is,
Exactly.
maybe worse or better depending on like their specific situation, but you're still going to experience stress in your life. You're still going to have a reason that you might use, and then that also kind of villainizes everyone that does end up using, because
Exactly.
and it makes them seem like bad people, and I'm like, that's not true. That's just not true.
Seeing people as bad people because they use that first makes you not likely to like be help to them.
Yeah.
If you look at the person who vapes and they, oh my gosh, they're so terrible, they vape.
Yeah.
Like, that just takes away the ability of you as like us as as their peers. Like, we don't want to go up to them because they're like seen as bad people in your brain.
Yeah, and like even to your point about like vaping friend groups as well, like maybe you don't want to like cut off a person if you realize they vape. Just trying to like focus on oh, we became friends. I realized you do this. How can I help you?
Yeah, and I'm definitely working on that. Like not being like I don't need to be around this person because. But I think if you have like, I'm not saying people don't have self-respect, but I feel like if you have those morals in place and you are going to stick to them, I feel like we have the ability to like see people and not just like completely ignore them.
Yeah,
And like come to them and be like, these are the resources that we can provide for you.
Yeah.
And we're your age. Instead of like an adult being like, you need to stop, go to this place.
Yeah,
I feel like,
an adult just kind of being like, hey, you shouldn't be doing this. You're like how could you do this? Like go do this because I told you to.
Exactly.
I think it seems more sincere coming from a peer, just kind of being like, hey, I care about you. I hope you like. I think you should know this isn't healthy for you. Maybe not phrasing it like that, but like, this may not be the healthiest choice. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna judge you for this, but if you want any help, if you want to talk about it, I know some resources for you. I can help you. Just kind of coming at it from that standpoint, I think that could help. Yeah,
and I think just sharing that, especially with like our peers, and maybe because when we took our interviews, there were so many people who don't vape, but I think the idea is that everyone does, or that the majority of people do, and that if you don't, it's like weird.
Yeah.
Or you can't talk about it because then people make fun of you. I feel like that's such like a idea, and just like kind of canceling that out is, I think, important.
Yeah, you raise an interesting point though, because I do remember like perceptions, like people's perceptions of how prevalent use were actually higher than the use percentages that we got. Like people think it's more prevalent than it is. It is very prevalent, but
but not as prevalent as people think.
Yeah, like little perceptions, especially among like the highest groups of people, like age-wise, that use. I think that's really interesting to address, and I think that was one thing that really came out of those surveys.
Yeah, and I feel like when you believe that prevalence is higher, you're more likely to
kind of join it.
Yeah, to join it.
Yeah,
because you're like, okay,
this is a thing now, I guess.
Yeah,
everyone's doing it. I'm missing out. Yeah, I might as well, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, final topic for you. What can we do as students to help? Kind of on this topic, I think we mentioned a lot about communication, kind of meeting people where they're at, and
not judging people.
Yeah, not judging people.
I feel like that's a big thing that we just talked about. Like, just
absolutely.
Not holding like a prejudice against people just because either you believe they vape or if they do.
Yeah, just kind of really addressing the problem and not villainizing the person. And kind of like separating the two, recognizing that they're not the same thing. You can still be a good person. Maybe you just have a circumstance that wasn't ideal.
Yeah.
Or maybe, there's a lot of stress going on. Like, it's understandable. Like, kind of really trying to understand people, I guess.
Yeah, not just jumping straight to the point. Listening. I think listening is such a good,
and I emphasize that for everybody, not just students, parents, adults.
Yeah.
Everybody out there, school systems. I think in school systems is especially important. Just kind of focus on separating the two, not villainizing the person. Like just talking about the disorder or whatever it is and really getting help for a person.
Yeah.
And kind of spreading resources, knowing what our resources are. Yeah.
And being the voice for our peers. I feel like that's important for us. Like we can listen to our peers, and I feel like they'll be more open about what they want to say when talking to us. And we can like advocate for them. I feel like because we're in more of a, not saying that they can't advocate for themselves.
Yeah, but it's easier for us in this position.
In a position that we can better share what is going on.
Yeah, definitely. I would
Yeah.
definitely say that. All right. Anything else you want to add?
I don't have anything.
Okay. I'm going to put you on the spot here. So
Oh.
I thought it would be really cool to end with like a reflection question kind of thing. So I'll give you a minute to think about this. I can go
Okay.
first. But our question for today is, what is a life lesson you've learned that meant a lot to you?
Okay.
Okay. So if you want me to go first,
Yeah.
I can say one thing that I kind of heard as a life lesson that I really connected with and it really kind of brought me a new perspective was I think there was one time I was talking with my dad about I don't know what. It was like a year ago. But he was just like, yeah, just remember not to take life too seriously. And I think that really hit me because especially, you're going into your junior year, so you're going to see this a lot more. But like junior year, I would say is the hardest year just because you're focusing on doing so many extracurriculars, really planning for me, college, probably for you too, I think.
Yeah.
And for like your future career path, what you want to do after high school. There's so much going on and so much that you have to do. Like even like school ended last week and I'm still doing work, so there's like so much going on. I was up till 5 a.m. this morning.
Oh.
That
yeah.
sucks. And so I was just like, I think it really, really connected with me because it was
Yeah.
like, you're doing all this stuff. Like there's so much going on and there's so much that you have to be aware of and learn and really like, there's so much we're exposed to. And so amidst all of that, it's really just kind of, it's nice to take a step back and kind of enjoy the smaller things,
Yeah.
So I thought
That's
that was
really
really
good.
cool.
That's
You have
really
anything you want to share with that?
I mean, this wasn't really directed towards me, but my parents, we had this like thing happen where we had to like change around some things. And so my dad told my mom, and this really stuck with her. And so I feel like I can share this. It was that we don't have to do things the way that we've always done them.
Yeah.
And I think the idea that like, even as a high schooler, me always thinking that I have to do the same thing. I always have to focus on getting A's in all of my classes. And I always have to do the same things
Like, hold
all the
yourself to
time,
that
be around the
standard.
same people, say the same things to people. I feel like looking at things in a bigger mindset and not just staying in your own, like being more maybe like empathetic, thinking about other people. You don't always have to do things the way that you've always done them. You can change whatever you want whenever you can. And that's also a good thing to think about.
Yeah.
Going back to what we were talking about, like substance use. You don't always have to do it just because you started or just because you've gotten yourself into a rough spot
Yeah.
where like you feel like you can't get out. You can change how you live your life. You don't have to always be stuck in that point.
I think that's really cool. I'm really glad you shared that one.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us today. Once again, my name is Vidya Kasturi, and you are?
I'm Caroline Hall. Bye.
See you next time.